Welcome back to Go Again Gaming, and welcome back to round 3 of the League That Means Nothing, Season 3. We are flying through these games, and I am here to take you along for the ride. Your voice of the league, Ian Holland. If you don't know me by now, if you don't remember that, I am not doing my job, or you are not paying attention. Today we have a 1-1 matchup in round 3 from Dash.io, Andrew Mason taking on Carlos Gutierrez on Rhinar, Reckless Rampage. The Spanish brute here to take revenge for the lovely Carlotta, ace in the hole of Fabritorium, who I believe fell to Andrew in the prior round, and that means the other member of the Carlo pairing from Fabritorium is here to get some vengeance. Is Dash.io going to be able to run roughshod over Rhinar, or will he be simply too intimidated to get through this? There's only one way to find out, and that's by throwing it to the gameplay and seeing what happens.
The League That Means Nothing Season 3 is brought to you in part by Enter the Battlefield Gaming out of Ontario, Canada. They do all of our favourite games, including this one, Flesh and Blood. They do sealed, singles, and events, but they also do things like Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lorcana, One Piece, Sorcery, Warhammer, tabletop games, and all sorts of different supplies for your table. Make sure you go and check them out if you're local to Canada, or check out their website at enterthebattlefield.ca. Let's get on with the tournament.
So it looks like we have Carlos going first here, and like any true dyed-in-the-wool brute gamer, we have a scab skins roll. Man, Carlos, I think you need better dice, because I've seen you roll an awful lot of single action points. You're not rolling ones, but it's not great. But this is exactly where he wants to be right now, because he gets to intimidate Dash.io. Dash.io famously can draw an awful lot of items in your opener, and I'll tell you what happens when you do. You don't block. I used to personally love playing against Dash.io as Fi, because I would routinely let my opponent start on 23 because I would intimidate their entire hand. But it looks like we're going to barraging beatdown. We've got our first intimidate, and then we're going to send in a splatter skull for 6. So 8 currently, unless Andrew blocks with 2 cards. And if he is caught hanging on to items, it's not going to be getting any cheaper. And if Splatter Skull hits, that intimidated card does not go back to hand. It goes to the graveyard. So it looks like we're blocking with a zipper hit and a 0 to 60 to make sure this Splatter Skull stays at 6 and no damage leaks over. Carlos obviously not having any other method of intimidation, no other intimidation tactics, if you will. I'm disproportionately proud of that one. Please ignore me. And then we're just going to move to Arsenal and let Andrew get his intimidated card back, who gets to draw up a couple of cards, but maybe he would have wanted that last one out of hand. Who knows? Andrew playing a Cerebellum Processor. Imagine that was either the last card left in hand or a card that he had drawn afterwards. Probably was a card too many down. Anyway, we're going to crank that tang. Get a counter on our Symbiosis shot. Not usually the gun you associate with Dash.io anymore these days. And then we're going to come in with an outpace, pitching a blue 0 to 60. So Rhinar cannot defend this one with armor. 2 floating, and we're going to boost away another 0 to 60. Now we have a 4 go again coming in here. And now that is being met with a test of might. So we clash, and the winner creates a might token. Rhinar, a lot more. No power cards, but we definitely have a 6 here, and Dash, just a simple 4 with a Pulse Wave Harpoon on top. So a might token and a full block for Carlos. And more importantly, we now know Andrew does not have an item on top. Of course, that could have been played in response. And then we're going to follow that one up with a Pulse Wave Harpoon, boosting away a Pulse Wave Harpoon. So Carlos now forced to reveal 2 cards from hand. And if either of them are 2 blocks, Andrew gets to add it as a defending card to the chain. But somehow, I don't think Carlos is going to be revealing a 2 block here. Rhinar might be a lot of things, but block light, he is not. He has an awful lot of 3 blocks in his deck. Carlos revealing a send packing and a Clash of Might. Funny enough, I might expect this Clash of Might to block anyway. Anyway, Carlos thinking about whether or not he does indeed want to clash. Again, it's a bit of interesting hidden information here. And in fact, both of those cards are getting dropped down to block with anyway. Revealing, again, the same Command and Conquer. And I can't quite see, because of the camera angle, what Andrew is revealing, but it looks like it's still not an item on top of Dash.io's deck. Andrew simply closing the combat chain up here. Going to draw that with the Cerebellum Processor. And then, oh, well, before you move that resources away, Andrew, you should probably check the top of your deck. As my good friend, Conor McGrath, former commentator on the league, that means absolutely nothing, would say, we lack critical information. Rhinar now 2 might tokens, pitching this mighty windup and just sending in a claw for 5. Looks like Carlos's hand was not going to be playing anything super interesting with that last hand. Just sending in a little bit of damage here. Just a poke. Dash.io not really known for her blocking capabilities. Sure, a lot of those boost cards can block. Not really a spot you want to be in, blocking with them. And taking the 5 points of damage. Carlos simply going to draw up, because you got to believe from the way Carlos is blocking, he is prepped to take this into the long game. And Dash.io is a little bit susceptible to being fatigued. So we're going to pitch a zipper hit to a zipper hit, a blue for a yellow, floating 2, vanishing a T-bone. Andrew taking a quick peek, as is his right. And we have 4 go again coming in at Carlos. Let's see what he decides to do here. The clashes in the deck, and specifically the test of might, makes me think that maybe Carlos is prepared to fatigue Andrew, or at least drag him into deep waters and see if he is able to hang. Carlos really thinking about this block here. Blocking with a Mighty Windup and the Apex Bonebreaker, triggering Apex Bonebreaker's ability to make a might and covering up 4 damage here. Leaving Carlos currently 3 cards in hand and a card in arsenal. Let's see what else Andrew wants to do here. Going to activate Dash.io to play in. Pretty good one. Play in a Tackle Core. Costs us 1 resource here. We have used our hero ability. And we get 2 counters on that Tackle Core. So going forward, it's going to be generating 2 resources a turn for 2 turns, which is not an insignificant amount, really. Now let's see what Andrew has to follow up. That was an instance, so it does not break the combat chain. You know, when you see your opponent tapping the table like that, they are counting. And when they're counting, that means there might be some maximum velocity coming in. Closing the combat chain. Apex Bonebreaker goes back into its little equipment home. And then we're going to Spark of Genius. I imagine we're going to go and get another Cerebellum. Crank it. Or perhaps, Andrew, checking the graveyard there, we're looking at getting something like a backup protocol red. Again. Spark of Genius, great turn ender card. Yeah, we're getting the Cerebellum. Fantastic turn ender card with the advent of the crank mechanic. You can crank it when you get an item and generate an extra action point, which means that where Spark of Genius used to be the end of your turn, it is now a way of tutoring for free and drawing a card and keeping your turn going, extending your turn. Sometimes all you need is that extra card. Drawing our card with Spark of Genius. Now let's see what Andrew decides to do. He has 2 cards in hand still, card in arsenal. And we have activated Dash.io, but we can still take a look. We are still fully entitled to. So let's see. We have another zipper hit coming in. This time for 3. Imagine we're boosting here. We're boosting a red heist. So this is coming in for 3. Go again. Oh, yeah, we have a backup protocol here. Are we cranking it? Imagine we are not, and we are simply just going to use that to add a counter to our gun and pass the turn. So Andrew is going to block here on this Command and Conquer for 7, which Carlos has pitched a Blood Rush Bellow to. Not something you usually see. He's just going to fridge this entire thing. Again, doing the Dash.io thing of I want all my cards. So we have 2 block from Arcanite Skullcap. We have Galvanized our Cerebellum Processor, getting a 3 block out of it and a 2 block off that Teklo Foundry Heart. And now we are removing that last counter from our other Cerebellum. We have yet to draw a card with these Cerebellum Processors, which is not an ideal spot to be in, but we now have 5 cards. We have access to Cerebellum. We have 2 floating resources, and we have a backup protocol. There's an awful lot we can do with this turn in particular. Again, taking a wee peek, as is our right. Dash.io activated. Putting in a Boom Grenade. I imagine we're going to crank this one here. Absolutely go up to a second action point. That is what we like to see. We now have 2 action points. Okay, so we're going to come in with this zipper hit and we're going to boost it, boosting away a T-bone. This is 5, but we are in fact at the whole time threatening a Boom Grenade. And we still have our second action point the whole way along, so we do get to draw from the Cerebellum if we so choose. So we have 5 go again, 3 cards in hand, card in arsenal, access to a 4th card by using Cerebellum Processor. And all of this is going to allow us as well, if we so choose, to backup protocol a red. Andrew having a big drink from a what looks like a mug of tea. A cuppa, as is traditional. I don't know, I'm a coffee drinker, man. So we have Carlos thinking about this 5. Do we just eat the 9 or eat the 8 and just say, yeah, whatever, take it? Take an 8, going to 32. Boom Grenade is gone. We don't need to think about it anymore. Huge help. We love not having to think about our Boom Grenade. Andrew having another think about his turn. Looks like we're going to activate that Cerebellum Processor, finally getting a draw off of it. Drawing from Cerebellum, closing the combat chain, as that is a non-attack action. Because if it was an instant, it would be busted. And it's already extremely feckin' good. Now we're going to pitch a throttle to a backup protocol. Going to buy back a red zipper hit. Oh, thinking. Tixie Baxies. Now we're going to Spark of Genius. Obviously using our action point, but I imagine we will generate a new one by the end of this Spark of Genius being resolved. Getting a Boom grenade. Hmm. So now what is Andrew going to follow this up with? Probably another red zipper hit. This is a good spot for, yeah, we have another counter on that symbiosis shot. This is a good spot for Carlos to start thinking maybe we're getting maximum velocity and maybe scaling flashback is a card that I want. So we're boosting a red 0 to 60, coming in for another 5. So 5 go again with another boom grenade chaser. Oh, maybe not. Andrew, 3 cards in hand. He gets another boost out of this. Oh, let's see how Carlos decides to block this one. If indeed he decides to block or just tank another bomb to the face. Carlos giving this one the big think. This is like the top 8 of a calling think right here. Big thinks. Asking to read Pulse Wave Harpoon, I imagine. Just worried about having his hand attacked. Blocking with the weakest link and scab skin leathers. Blocking 5. Andrew taking a peek, as is his right, because we do not want to lack critical information. Sending in an outpace, pitching a yellow, now insulated. If that arsenal is indeed a max velocity, as I thought it was, as I think it is even, banishing a zipper. Can't block this one with armor, can't flashbag this baby. So this is coming in for 4. We might be taking that boom grenade after all. Ooh. Carlos, man has a sink below. Sinking a card, not bad. Who needs to block with armor when you can just sink below? Let's see what Andrew decides to do. Card in hand, card in arsenal. Do we have? Oh, we don't have a max velocity here. We are just running ourselves out of resources. So we're just another 4, trying to force through another boom grenade hit. I imagine here. At least Carlos does not need to worry about that. high speed impact from a maximum velocity. But with 2 cards in hand and a card in arsenal, are we going to let Dash just do what she wants? Or are we taking 7, going down to 25 and seeing what we can throw back? I imagine we're going to shoot the gun here because why not? It's free. Pew pew for 2. Removing a steam counter here. Dealing 2 points of damage. Just a casual 2 from the symbiosis shot. It is a gun, not a pistol. We learned that pistols are not guns. Brian Gottlieb taught me that. Andrew doing a little bit of board state management there, tidying up a little bit. Quite a pretty decent turn there, must say. Dash.io does indeed do be having them. And Carlos just going to go yeet. Here's Command and Conquer. You've cashed in so much of your armor now. Your skull cap's not on. What are you going to do, brother? And it looks like what Andrew is going to do is block 6. Blocking with a zipper hit and a heist. Wonder what that arsenal is. Gonna lose that cerebellum processor. Gonna lose that Techlo core, but not before it provides us 2 very much needed resources. So it looks like we're just going to go zipper hit. 5, go again. Pretty good. We have a card in hand. We have a resource floating. And if we have an item on top, we have an extra item, an extra card to play. It looks like we have chosen this turn to flesh bag our opponent and just end the turn here. Blocking with a Splatter Skull, Skeleton Flesh Bag. Card in hand is banished, intimidated, got spooked out by how scary Splatter Skull was at blocking. Andrew is just going to activate Foundry Heart, banish 0 to 60, banish 0 to 60. Don't think he's doing a whole lot. Nope, we're just going to attack with this heist. So it was a 2 cost, but it wasn't the 2 cost I thought it was after all. Banishing a Pulse Wave Harpoon to boost. 5, go again. On hit, gets to put an item from his banish zone into play. Which also, very funnily enough, works with Crank. No items in there, just 5 vanilla here. Looks like we're blocking, and we're blocking. We're generating a Might token. So we have our Might. Let's see, what are we sending with it? And it looks like we're sending an Erase Face. Now, this is a card that Dash does not want to see. Mechanologist hates this. This one simple trick. Mechanologists hate him. On hit, you cannot boost. You can boost, but you cannot boost Mechanologist cards because none of them are Mechanologist. Neither are your items. They are not mechanologist items, so they will not put counters on your gun. So we have 7 coming in here. Skullcap's still turned off, so I imagine 2 cards plus Foundry Heart or 2 cards plus those boots are going under the bus here. Unless Andrew really doesn't want to have a turn. Or he has dash IO'd himself, also known as runeblading yourself. But that is a 6. Yeah, BIOS update and a Sprocket Rocket taking a point. Imagine we're not doing a whole lot this turn. And now Carlos is going to get all the space in the world. So we're going to play Teclocore. We're going to draw up. So we're going to start with a this turns on me. Both players get to draw a card. Seems bad, right? Well, funnily enough, if Andrew was to attack Carlos now for the entirety of his next turn, Carlos would take 1 less damage from each of those attacks, which, if your opponent attacks once, isn't a whole lot. If your opponent attacks like 5 or 6 times, 4, 5, 6, the more they attack, the more value that you get out of this, especially in the pre-ban days of High Octane. This could lead to crazy blowouts for Carlos. But it looks like we're just going to send in a weakest link for 6, suspiciously holding on to a bunch of cards. Again, Andrew has to block this because if he's holding an item, Carlos just gets to draw a card. Looking at the top of his deck, probably hoping to pitch an item into it to maybe go get one. Can't tell you what they do because Carlos has all of them signed by Fidem. So we have weakest link still coming in. Andrew trying to figure out what he's going to do. He has 5 cards in hand. Surely one of them will block. Surely at least 2 of them will block. How badly can you dash IO up your hand that you are? But it looks like we're going to pitch a Cerebellum Processor to play an item off the top. Throwing in a Boom Grenade, no need to crank that baby because it is not our turn and we cannot generate action points on our opponent's turn. We can, however, put a bullet in the gun. Taking another look. Are we just going to take 6 and keep a 4-card hand here? Because if we have no items in play, this card actually doesn't do anything. Yeah, taking 6. Please reveal your hand. It is a 0 to 60. A throttle. A Boom Grenade. And a Boom Grenade. So are we going to discard the red or the yellow Boom Grenade? And Carlos gets to draw himself a nice new card. Not the world's most ideal spot here. Taking some pretty heavy intellect penalties to do this. But I suppose Andrew didn't really offer much in the way of resistance the previous turn. Always a problem when you have a hand that's really good at blocking your opponent is like, I have no attacks. So we're going to lose some cards here. Some counters from those items. Going to get our 2 resources. I imagine we're going to play that other Boom Grenade in our hand and just swing for the fences depending on what we are able to do. Those blues are not really where we want to be at in terms of attacking. We're going to lead off with this blue 0 to 60. It's coming in for 2. We're boosting. A significantly better card, a red 0 to 60. So we're coming in for 2 go again. Taking a peek. Bearing in mind this 2 it's actually 1. Coming in for 1, which is even more obnoxious for Carlos to block. Because it's 1, but it's not 1, it's 5. If it hits, it's 5. Maybe Andrew is looking at moving that red boom grenade in his hand into the arsenal for next turn. Carlos having a fairly lengthy think about this one. Are we just going to take it? No, we're going to block with those scab skin leathers. Free cover up here. Now we're going to be fast and or furious. This is going to come in for 2 whole damage. With go again. Chasing. Chased up by a boom grenade. So 2 go again. Again, these aren't the numbers that you really want to block here. Like, you will block them, but you will not always be happy about it. Blocking with a beast within. Covering up 2. But by blocking 2, we're really blocking 5 whole points of damage here. So, sorry, 6 even. And then we have that blue throttle with our 2 resources. And let's see what Andrew decides to do with them. We are, in fact, going to send throttle for 2. Boosting a system reset. Oof, that's a good one. I saw something about that being pretty good from Sam Somethingland. I don't know. Top 8 Worlds had like one of the most unbelievable turns of flesh and blood you will ever see. Sam Sutherland absolutely crushed it in that game. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And then Carlos just going to block another 3 on this. This boom grenade getting exactly 0 points of value. And here's a gun for 1. Pew, pew. The saddest pew, pew. Carlos taking the 1, going to 19. Andrew, never going to get this block out of your skull cap at this rate. Putting that boom grenade in arsenal, drawing up. Carlos playing a very, very defensive mid-rangey game plan as Andrew is just running out of cards here. Now we're going to play Warmonger's Diplomacy. Bolted storms in and we decide who is doing anything or are they doing anything at all. I would be very surprised if Rhinar chose anything other than war, and it looks like Andrew is also going to choose war. Carlos just going to draw up. I imagine if we're planning on playing the Warmonger, surely we would have blocked with another card, but I don't know. So boom grenade dies. That boom grenade that's in the arsenal is staying there. We gain our 2 resources here from Teklokor. I very much remember having a long conversation with an opponent after I played a Warmongers against a Viscera opponent, picked up their Spellbound Creepers, and I warned them, I wouldn't do that. You're allowed to activate them legally because it's an instant, but I wouldn't recommend it. As he was thinking really hard about it, I was like, why? It's like, do you know what? I'll just do you a favor and I'll call a judge over and explain what will happen. Good times. Anyway, we're fast and furious. We're coming in with a 0 to 60. 3, go again. And we just need to start putting damage on the board, but we need to do that in a way that doesn't diminish our deck because we are really, really stuck here. Cards in deck is the thing that's going to kill us here. Carlos does not need to play around anything. There's no instant speed shenanigans. And if we simply trade 4 cards for 4 cards here, Carlos can't lose because every attack that Andrew throws costs him 2 cards. T-Bone, forcing a block with equipment. Boosting away a backup protocol, one of the things that can kind of buy you back into this game for your big setup turns with Dash. And Carlos blocking with Scab Skin Leathers, as is his right. 2 cards left in hand for Andrew, card in Arsenal. Carlos thinking about whether or not to block any of this damage at all, or if he's just going to take the 3 from the T-Bone. And he, in fact, is. Then we have a red zipper hit. Terrible Warmonger's turn, because it turns out Andrew was just fully prepared to throw Banishing and Boom Grenade. Can't be a lot of those left in the game. 5, go again. Carlos full blocking this zipper hit. Looks like pretty committed to blocking out here. And 2 damage coming in. Is Carlos going to do anything back on his turn, or is he just going to block and pass? Taken 2, going to 14. Starting to look like Carlos learned a thing or two from his last round and has decided to commit to the fatigue. Ye old fatigue. Carlos thinking about whether to do anything with his card or not. Tell you what, if you're not going to do anything with it, you should have blocked with it, man. Telling you. Telling you. Checking his graveyard, seeing what's left in his deck, I imagine, and just drawing up. Andrew playing that boom grenade, finally freed from the tyranny of Warmonger's diplomacy, cranking it and ready to start swanging and banging, seeing if he can take some cards out of Carlos's hand and deal some damage. It's only 14 damage, but does he have 14 damage worth of deck left? So I'm going to start with a blue T-Bone, stealing, losing that Tekla core in the process, getting another block out of that Scab Skins. It's only coming in for 1, go again. But there is a yellow boom grenade, so that's 3 points of damage. Is Carlos going to block 1? Is he going to take 4? Looks like we're going to hold the line. So our attacking hero has not drawn 2 or more cards, so we're just going to de-react for 2. Carlos probably holding on to that in case. Oh, amazing. Spark of genius. Andrew gets to look through his deck, see what's left. Get something like a Cerebellum. Crank it. Draw a card. Looks like Andrew is shuffling his hand less so than his deck. Cranking it, going to 1. Steam counter. Drawing a card. Putting a counter on the gun. Andrew put a counter on the gun. Andrew, gun. I see a system reset there. Now that's a card. Holy crap. No, Andrew, you're supposed to system reset. Combos, generate action points, loads of pistol shots. Oh well. Anyway, before we go again, and 2 cards in deck, so who cares? Yeah, here comes a fate foreseen. I wonder if Carlos has seen how this game is going to end. And here we have a pulse wave harpoon, boosting, a throttle. 2 cards left in the deck. Well, 1 card plus the card in the pitch zone. So this is coming in for 4 with a yellow boom grenade, and Andrew does not, in fact, have enough damage left in the deck to win the game. Carlos blocking fully out here. Are we? No, we're going to cough up the tunic. We're not going to overblock here. We're going to keep 2 cards. And then we're going to pistol coming in for just 2. Carlos takes 2. Let's see how long it takes our brute opponent to realize that he has in fact won this game of flesh and blood. As Andrew has a BIOS update and a system reset in hand. We're going to attack for 6. Floating 1. Andrew is probably going to take 6 here. I would wager. He might block 6 and be at no cards. Come on, Carlos. Put 2 and 2 together, man. Take 6. Draw. Pistol 4-2. Taken 2. Carlos attacking with a race face. 4-6. Andrew taking 6. Carlos going to Arsenal. Andrew attacking with his last pistol shot of the game for 2. Carlos thinking. Thinking and actually blocking. I wonder if he's going to realize what is happening. Carlos attacking with this beast within for 6. Andrew taking 6. I imagine Andrew just passes here. Carlos draws up. If Carlos attacks for 6 again, it'll be very funny when Andrew blocks 6. Looks like Andrew just passed, and here we have a splatter skull. Carlos thinking about what to pitch. How much BM is too much BM? Block 6. Carlos says okay. And that is the end of the game. Andrew with no cards in deck, no way to deal any points of damage, and Carlos just taking him apart, really locked in on a fatigue plan early, and it won him out. Definitely learned a thing or two from Slapdash the last round, I'll tell you that much. Congratulations, Andrew, and hard luck. Or congratulations, Carlos. Hard luck, Andrew. Let's keep it going, though. Just because you're 1 and 2 does not mean you should give up now. You are playing in the league. That means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. All it's about is the great game of flesh and blood and getting a little bit better. So, while it wasn't the thrill a minute ride of fireworks and explosions that we can often see in these brute versus mechanologist games, I think that was a fantastically well played game by Carlos, and Andrew really tried to piece together a couple of big turns there to threaten damage, and Carlos kind of managed to play very disciplined in keeping the damage off. And if you agree, if you don't agree, if you like the video, if you want to engage with us, please make sure you like the video and you comment down below. Tell us what you thought of this game. Make sure you subscribe so that you get to see all of the League That Means Nothing Season 3 coming into your inbox because we are in the middle of round 3, but we have 3 more rounds to go, plus a top 8, so there is so much more Flesh and Blood to be played. And I have been your voice of the league, and if you wish to talk to me, get to know me, see what I am all about, you can find me on Blue Sky at finalspirit.bsky.social and on Twitter at finals_spirit. But for now, I'm going to have to leave you, and wish you the very best. And the next round is going to include cards from the Hunted. But we have so much more of round 3 to go, and I will see you in the next one.